Yeah, it was just 1 hour, 15 minutes. I was able to have you guys class last week because we were equally yet to resume. Now that we have full resumption on ground, so my schedule is a little bit clumsy at the moment. However, I'll be able to give you guys an hour, 15 minutes, and hopefully we should be able to cover everything we need to cover. So you
Okay,
can
let's
share
do
those
please.
documents via WhatsApp.
Yes.
Okay, so we'll be looking at the ACADA model. Please, I hope you guys can hear me loud and clear.
Yes, we can.
All right, thank you very much. So like I always like to do, I want to give a brief introduction of what the term communication is and the term development. We'll get to marry the two together so that we can have an idea of what this construct is about. And that is development communication. Thereby, afterwards, we move straight into this. So the question shared by Mrs., if I'm right, Nancy, is planning and SDGs. On SDGs, just study your group work. Also read the planning models and Moimeka chapter 1. I don't have all of these materials with me, so I might find it difficult working along with what you guys have. However, this is your AOC, okay? That's what you want to look at. That of Moimeka chapter 1 is not with me here. So in case you have it, you can share it with me so that I can just look at it briefly and then we get to walk around it. So we all understand what the term communication is and what the term development is by now. But however, communication itself has to do with, sorry, please, I'm doing a double job here. So admitting people and at the same time having the class. So Angelina is in water. So communication itself has to do with sharing of ideas, beliefs, message between the encoder and the decoder. We can equally call it the arts of transmitting information, ideas, and attitudes from one person to another. While the term development itself is interpreted from various perspectives depending on the discipline you find yourself. While some perspectives focus on individual and personality, some other discipline will look at it from the angle of capacity development. So, like I said, it varies a lot. It varies, and that has to do with the definition of the word development itself. So, however, we'll look at why some perspective focus on individual and personality variables such as self-reliance, self-achievement, achievement motivation. Others concentrate the term development to mean capacity development to effect a change. This change could be attitudinal change, adaptive change, or behavioral change in order to change the particular way of doing things. This can become a change towards adaptive change into a changing situation that will find ourselves in the society. In other words, Rogers in 1996 defined the term development as a widely participatory process of social change in a society which is intended to bring about social and material advancement, which is encapsulated in a greater equality, freedom, and other valued qualities for the majority of people through the gaining of greater control over their environments. Like I said, I don't want to waste much time on this. So, what is the term development communication itself, or communication for development? Communication for development has been comprehensively defined by Fraser and Restrepo Estrada in 1998 as the use of communication processes, techniques, and media to help people towards reach a particular consensus in order to help them plan action for change and sustainable development to help people acquire the knowledge and skills they need to improve their condition and that of the society, and to equally help them improve the effectiveness of their institutions. These institutions could be governance, these institutions could be uh, schools, these institutions could be banks, these institutions could be industries around them. So we need communication to bring about this development. No institution gets to grow in isolation. It needs the collaboration of people, and when people come together, they get to communicate towards a greater goal or a greater for the greater good of that institution. So, using the concept of social marketing, which is defined communication for development as identifying a socio-economic need and helping people to satisfy it. What are the things that people need to grow? What are the things that people need to develop? What are the things that people need to develop their capacity? This capacity development could be mentally, develop their capacity could be about their attitude, their behavior, and so on. And majority of it are actually channeled for their own personal, for their own profit, societal profit. So communication for development aims at applying communication in the very practical terms of getting people to adopt new ways of self-development to bring about societal development as well. So the PowerPoint of communication for development here is behavioral change, and which is why I refer it as behavioral change communication, also known as with the acronym BCC. Moving on, we'll be looking at what the ACADA model is all about. The ACADA model encapsulates uh, five things. Looking at the word, five. The alphabet that we have ACADA. There are five in numbers. ACADA. And ACADA model is not complete without adding the word evaluation. This evaluation is what will allow us to know whether or not everything we have embarked upon in the course of our SDGs, in the course of our NGOs, in the course of trying to effect a behavioral change in an environment. We need the evaluation to ensure or to give us that conviction that yes, we've been able to do something meaningful, and yes, this project that I will embark about, it might be SDG, it might be NGO from a particular NGO, has been able to do the expected job, and that is to what effect that behavioral change. So the first one under ACADA model, what does the A there stands for? The A there stands for what is known as assessment. It stands for what is known as assessment. Stands for what is known as assessment. Please, are we all together? I think I have 17.
Yes, sir, we are. We are
Okay,
with
thank
you,
you.
sir.
The
Yeah.
first one that stands for what is known as assessment. I will say assessment. The word assessment here means the situation report. The situation report. The situation report. At the assessment stage is where we get to do our situation report. There's a theory under public relations. We refer to it as the situational crisis communication theory. This theory won't work unless we are able to assess the current situation on ground. However, that is not where we are going. But the assessment here, like I said, has to do with the situation report, followed by the C in ACADA model, which stands for communication analysis. Communication analysis. Communication analysis. And under communication analysis, just like what we have under our assessment, that are referred to as the word situation report. Under our communication analysis, we have the following, and they are just six. Number one is the problem analysis, or what is known as statements. The problem analysis, or what is known as statements. Number two, under our communication analysis now, that is what we are looking at. Number two is the behavior. Behavior is number two. Number three, we have participation. Participation. That's what we have in that number three. Number four, we have channels, or what is known as media. Channels, or what is known as media. Channels or media. Number five, we have communication objectives. Number five, communication objectives. Number five, communication objectives. And number six, we have indicators. Number six, we have indicators. Number six, we have indicators. These 6 items that are identified are the things we are to look at when we start talking about the communication analysis, and that is the C. The C in ACADA model represents communication analysis. And the next one there is the D, the alphabet D or the letter D, which means design. Design. D there stands for design. And under design, what do we mean by design? It is at this stage that we do what is known as our strategy plan. Our strategy plan. And what are the things we have under our strategy plan? We have 4 items under the strategy plan. We have 4 items on the strategy plan. 4 items on the strategy plan. The first one there is advocacy. 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 Under our design, which I refer to as in bracket strategy plan, number 1 item we have there is advocacy. Number 2 item we have under our design is social mobilization. Social mobilization. Social mobilization. Social, not social. Social, like your social studies. Social mobilization. And number 3 item is program. Number 3 item there is program. Number 4 is what is known as communication. Number 4, communication. Number 4, communication. Number 4, communication. Number 4, communication. And the next one, which is A, to complete what is known as ACADA now. Design, again, I said design in brackets, put in brackets the strategy plan. And under your under your design, you have 4 items. Number 1, advocacy, followed by social mobilization, followed by program, followed by communication. ASPC. 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 Now, before we go to action, under the communication aspect that you have, for your design, which is your strategy plan, under the communication aspect, I want us to note the following. Under your communication aspects, you can just draw an arrow in front of the word communication and note the following: message development, message development, message development. And under that message development, you have the following items: emotional or rational, emotional or rational, and put in brackets in front of that emotional or rational, direct or indirect, direct or indirect. Number 2 item under your message development is positive or negative, positive or negative, and put in brackets of that negative, after that negative, one or two-sided, one or two-sided, or one forward slash two-sided, one or two-sided. And number 3, you have what is known as humorous or serious. Number 3 item under message development, you have humorous or serious, humorous or serious. And number 4, you have collective or individual, collective or individual, collective or individual. And number 5, you have source, peer, and authority. Source, peer, and authority. The peer there is spelled as P-E-E-R. P-E-E-R. Source, peer, and authority. And the last one, which is action, the last one, which is action, under our ACADA model, we have items underneath as well. Please, you guys should permit me, just give me a minute or 2 minutes. I need to attend to someone. I get back to you in a jiffy. Thank you. All right, thank you very much for your patience. We stopped at action, and that is the last A that we have on our ACADA model, the word action. And in bracket, please put the word implement plan, implement plan, implement plan. So you list the following items for your implement plan. Number one there is develop materials. Number two item there is pretests and revise. Pretests, and revise. Number three, you have dissemination plan, develop dissemination plan. And number four, you have develop training plan. And like I said earlier, ACADA model is not complete without evaluation. Evaluation is very key for every model of development communication. You have to evaluate at the end of it all. And the last one there is E, which stands for evaluation. Evaluation. And under evaluation, we equally have some items that are highlighted here. We have process, we have impacts, and then we have outcome. PIO. Process, impacts, and outcome. Process, impact, and outcome. Process, impact, and outcome. So we'll take it all one after the other. We'll take it all one after the other. I'll share the material with you guys at the end of the class. Share it with Miss Nancy. So we'll start with the first one, which is assessment. The assessment there is the first stage in the model, and it is an objective and objective assessment. Why do we say it is an objective assessment? It means you have to detach yourself entirely from any sentiment you'll be having. You have to detach yourself entirely from every sentiment you'll be having of the situation. So, and this assessment has to be done with value-free assessment. That is what you have to do. You have to do what is known as a value-free assessment of the situation. Meaning when you are running an SDG, you are not going to be doing the assessment because you are a Muslim. And if you want to do the assessment, you have to do the assessment in such a way that your NGO favors them at 150%. At the end of the day, it's going to affect your evaluation because you'll be given more than you are even expected to give. And at the end of the day, those you are looking at will not value everything you are giving them, because it is as good as doing an assessment for your kid that is going to school. In a week, they are to go with their lunch, their brunch, their breakfast, and so many other things. And you intend to give them Caprisone throughout that week. Because she's your child, or probably because you feel of all the children you have, she's the most loved. That is your number one preference. She's your number one priority, or he or she's your number one priority. While others are getting 5, you now decide to give such child 10 or 15. They won't value it. They would rather give out those 10 as well, or probably not even make use of it, or waste everything. So when you're doing your assessment, it has to be objective. So, and this enables communicator to examine the vital issues at stake and come up with a strong case statement that would eventually inform the behavior to promote. When you're objective, it enables you as a facilitator of that SDG to examine the vital issues very well. And you put certain things or certain issues at stake, and it allows you to be able to come up with a strong case statement that this is the problem these people are going through. Just like our second undergrad days where we get to write our project. Some of us are still project machineries here, where we have to come up with our problem statement. We have different methods of writing our problem statements. But I have my own personal formula. I call it the ICM PAG. You do the we do the ideal situation, followed by the current, followed by the persistence, followed by the effect of it, followed by the research that you have to conduct, and then the gap to fill. So through a proper assessment of the situation on ground, as a facilitator, you are able to gain an insight into the remote area as well as the immediate problem, into the remote and the immediate problem, into the far long problem and the immediate ones you can be able to identify. And when you identify both the remote and the immediate problem, you get to identify this in respect of the matter, of the subject matter at hand. If your SDG is looking at quality education for the girl child, or if your SDG is looking at the girl child education, you have to look at, you are looking at, then let us just take any rural environment in the Southwest. I think those in the Southwest are perceived to be one of the most highly educated individuals in Nigeria. Perceived. Don't forget the word perceived. That could change tomorrow. That is already changing at the moment. The girl child education. Now, you can channel your SDG can actually channel this to the northern part of the country, and that is look at places like Zamfara, places like Borno, places like Katsina, and so on, where girl child education rate is at the lowest. So you need to identify their current situation, both the remote and the immediate problems that they are going through as a result of the fact that they are not, or as a result of the fact that they do not allow their wards to go to school, particularly the girl child. So according to AJIA in 2003, situation assessment in broad terms includes the following. Please, I want you to take note of the following, because I'll still come back to ask questions based on what we're able to get or what we're able to pick from this. What is this situation assessment? In broad terms, it includes the following. Number one, review of program status in terms of successes, failures or weakness, issues and problems, as well as the identification of those problems or interference that can be overcome through the application of communication interventions. Now, when we say review of program status in terms of successes, who are those? Or have there been other NGOs, or have there been other bodies that have been able to come together to look at the girl child education in this environment? What was their success rate? What were their weaknesses? What were their failures? What were the issues that they identified? What were the problems that they faced? What were the challenges? And as well as the identification of those problems as well, you have to identify them. And in the course of identifying these problems, you look at what are those problems, what are the things that interfered in the course of them identifying, in the course of them preferring solution to the problems identified in terms of the girl child education. You look at all of these challenges, from the success rate to the failures or their weakness, the issues, the problems they faced, so that you can use it to overcome your own current realities. Because when you don't review these programs that have been done in the past, you won't know where you are going. If you don't look at the problems from the past, you know where you are at the moment, and then you are likely not to be able to know where you're going. And the next one is to review. Number one, like I said, review the program status in terms of success, failure, or weakness, issues, and problems. Number two, now you have to review existing communication interventions. Review existing communication interventions. And how do you do this? You review them through the compilation of communication, through training and learning materials that were used, through listing of objectives of the information, education, and communication materials that were equally used, and analyze the implication of the pretest reports and evaluation studies. So definition of intended beneficiaries, participants with regards to location, language, group, age, sex, and socioeconomic status. These are the things you have to review at the second stage. Again, number one, you review the program status. Number two, you review existing communication interventions. And when you review some of these existing communication interventions, it's as good as reviewing means of communicating to those that you intend this behavioral change in them. Have there been NGOs? Have there been any other bodies, whether governmental agencies or non-governmental agencies, registered or unregistered, that have been there? What are the communication interventions that they use? How did they communicate with these people? In terms of the materials that they used, in terms of how well they set their objectives in informing these people, And in the course of even giving them this information material, did they consider the demographic variables as well in terms of their allocation, in terms of their language, in terms of their age group, in terms of their gender, and equally in terms of their socioeconomic status? Do they even understand the communication channel you are making use of? These are part of the things you have to assess when you are doing your analysis. And the next one is review of existing behavioral or focus group data, attitudinal studies, and monitoring evaluation reports with regards to prevalent practices or habits, economic systems, socio-political relationships, cultural values and religious belief system, gender relationship, and the status of children or the elderly. Now look at this review of existing behavioral or focus group data. When you look at this review of existing or behavioral or focus group data, what it allows you to be able to understand is this: while running your analysis or while doing your situation report, you have to be able to review their behavior as well. Because don't forget, when you come to this community, when you approach them, that this is a solution, this is the attitudinal change that they are trying to effect on them, this is the behavioral change that you are trying to effect in them. What was their response in terms of their attitude at the end of the program, in the course of the program, at the initial stage, at the middle, or at the last? What was their response? These are some of the things you have to look at. These are some of the things you have to look at. So while looking at it, it allows you to be able to have a broader perspective on their cultural belief, on their religious belief system, on their gender parity, their gender relationship, even the status of the children as against that of the adult, as against that of the elderly ones amongst them. And the last one you have to look at when doing your situation assessment, you have to do what is known as identification of missing information. What are the things that we're missing in the past that you have to work on? And what are the things you have to look at when you're doing your identification of missing information? You have to look at their practices in terms of their behavior. Do you have to encourage them to take or to accept what you are giving them? Or are you trying to discourage them against their regular practices in terms of their behavior? So which of them need to be modified? And this is it, the communication aspect that needs to be modified. If I'm approaching the north now, I'm a Yoruba man, I don't understand Hausa. And if I'm going to them with such a beautiful or a laudable idea in terms of changing their behavior, their attitude towards particular thing, then I need to be able to understand even their culture, their belief, their behavioral attitude towards what I'm selling to them. Meaning I would have to go with someone who is a proper Ausama, a typical Ausama who is an indigene, and probably the person only understands English, but it's someone that I know will not detach himself from his culture. So that person will be able to guide me well in terms of the missing information that others had failed to garner. So which of them needs to change totally? These are some of the things you have to ask yourself. And which practices or behavior are close to the ideal behavior? I'm going to the north now to try as much as possible to convince them to stop taking fura de nunu. That is going to be like the most difficult thing for them to do. Because even in the advert world, Coca-Cola once admitted that they don't have any competition in the north other than fura. Every other product, they've been able to beat them hands down. But you see that fura, an average Hausa man will not leave it for you. Now, if you're going there, trying to convince them that the nunu that you make use of consists of certain microorganisms that could affect your health, they won't listen. But you need, if there are other NGOs that have been able to do that over the years, but have failed countless times, you need to look for that missing piece that ensure that these people do not listen to them. You have to connect those missing pieces through that missing information that you have to work on. So various facets of the situation comes to play at the end of the day. And when I say various facets of this information, Yeah, this has to do with the review of program status, the review of existing communication intervention. You have to review existing behavioral attitude, and you have to identify the missing information. So the next one we'll look at is the communication analysis. Communication analysis. Please, can anyone do a breakdown of what we were able to pick up from assessments? Anyone, please, before we move on to communication analysis.
Hello, may I try?
All right, you can give it a shot.
Okay, assessment of the ACADA model is a situation analysis. That's if I want to bring an intervention like girl child education using maybe one of the northern parts as um, a place of study, contextualizing it in that area. There are so many things I have to put in place, like review of program status in terms of successes, failures, and weaknesses, review of existing communication interventions. Like in terms of reviewing of program status in terms of successes, failure, and weaknesses, I have to check whether there have been MGOs that have been there, what they did, identifying the problems, what they were unable to achieve, and what they achieved. And this will be like giving me enabling environment to capitalize on what they achieved and what did not achieve, to know what approach I would take. Then another one is to review existing communication intervention, like have there been any MGOs that have been there also? What did they do? What they did not do, and did they not achieve? Like a kind of running pretest of what they did. And it will give me a kind of wider view of what had been existing there, then to know what to put in place. Then the third one is review of existing behavioral focus group data, attitudinal studies, and the monitoring slash evaluation report. Then, while doing a kind of your situational report, you have to evaluate their behavioral change, what was their responses. It will also allow me the opportunity to have a wider view of their cultural value, a kind of practices, what they um, their economical system, social political relationship. Like if their attitude, I would want them to change. I have to get somebody who is attuned with that environment to also help me to a kind of tell them the reason why they should change from that attitude, just as you gave a example with this their drink. I don't know whether crude now, I don't know, sorry. So the next one is identifying the missing link, that are missing information, such as practices, a kind of behavior. Sorry, this one I didn't get it well. Sorry, thank you. Somebody can continue from there. Thank you.
Okay, sir, can I try from where you started, from the letter A in ACADA model?
All right, you can go ahead.
Okay, you said the A in ACADA model is assessment, which means this is where we do our situation report. And then the C is communication analysis. And under communication analysis, said we have problem analysis or statement, behavior, participation, channels of media, communication objectives, and indicators. And the D stands for design, which is also known as strategy plan. And this is the stage where we do our strategic planning. And there are four items under strategy plan, which is advocacy, social mobilization, program, communication, and in all is ASPC. Then under this communication here, we have message development. And we have the following items under message development: emotional or rational. And then under the bracket, emotional or rational, we have direct or indirect. The second item there is positive or negative. in brackets one or two sided. Then three is humorous or serious. The fourth item is collective or individual. The fifth one is source, peer, and authority. Then the A in the same ACADA model is action. And then that's where I stopped. I don't know. I didn't get the other ones. Thank you.
All right. Do we have one more person before we proceed? All right. I think we have Mrs. Sezenwata noted she didn't get some things. I need to be clear on those things you didn't get so that we can take it up from there. Ditto for Mrs. Onyi Nancy. So please, I need clarification on where you guys were lost so that I can just go back on it real quick.
Okay, from where I didn't get is from the action. From the action, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Now, under action, I noted some things that you have to look at. For action, action has to do with your implementation. That's why you do your that's why you implement your plan. Implement plan. And under that action where you have implement plan, you have what is known as you have to look at 4 items. And we'll still get to talk about that. Those 4 items are actually dovetailing from the message development. And we have them as develop material, pre-test and revise, develop dissemination plan, and develop training plan. So, however, we'll be looking at all of this. So I want us to move on because I'm having another online class in like an hour or so. So trying to admit someone in. Okay. So the next one we'll be looking at is communication analysis. Communication analysis. Another communication analysis, I noted some things, some items, which is just 6 that we have to look at. You have to focus on those 6. It is very important under your communication analysis. The first one there is problem analysis, or what is known as statements. Problem analysis or statements. Problem analysis or statements. Number 2 there is behavior. Number 3 is participation. Number 4, channels or media. Channels or media. And number 5, we have communication objectives. Number 6, we have indicators. Again, problem, behavior, participation, channels or media, channels or media, communication objectives, and the last one is indicators. 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 That is the last one. So look at the communication analysis fully now. So after the assessment, after you're done with your assessment, and when I say the word assessment, that's where you do your situation report. Your situation report. That's why you give your situation report. So after doing that, the next step is your communication analysis. And at this junction is where you take at this junction is what is referred to as the takeoff point. And you use it to analyze the problem on hand by seeking answers to questions. It is at the communication analysis that we refer to as a takeoff point. And oftentimes, we use it to analyze the problem on hand. And what are the problems on hand? They are the things we've identified from our situation reports. And when you're doing this, you have to seek answers to certain questions like, what are people doing or not doing which constitutes a problem? What are people doing or not doing which constitutes a problem? That is the question you ask yourself. And when we're looking at it from the angle of the girl child education, what are people doing or not doing which constitutes a problem? What are they doing in the north? They give birth to quite a lot of children. Majority who are actually ladies are not given the opportunity to rather to go to school. And what constitutes this problem of not allowing the women go to school is because of, of so many societal factors, which could be as a result of their gender belief that the woman is not supposed to be out there stressing herself, but rather should be indoors always. The men are the ones that should be given opportunities to go to school. The second question you ask yourself, and you have to provide answers to, is where and when does such action or inaction take place? Where and when does such action or inaction take place? Where and when does such action or inaction take place? That's the second question you have to provide answers to. The third question you need to provide answers to is who does who does such action or inaction affect? The action they're taking in the north now as regards the girl child education, who does it affect? Of course, it is the girls. So, and what's another question is what are the effects of the problem? And what are the possible causes of the problem? So by providing candid answers to these questions, it becomes easy to state the problem in a clearer perspective. In a clearer perspective, it allows you to be able to say, yes, this is actually the problem at hand. So, and other sub-steps of communication analysis are behaviors, and these are the steps that I listed as your items. Behavior analysis, the participant analysis, the channel or media analysis, the communication objectives, and what is known as the monitoring and evaluation indicators. So we'll be looking at the items that we've highlighted earlier on. So you can refer to those items as what is known as the sub steps under your communication analysis. You just don't say it is communication analysis, you just have to talk to people. What are the steps embedded in it? So the first one here is the behavior analysis. Number one, the first step rather is problem. It is the problem. You have to analyze that first, followed by what is known as the behavior analysis. Doing the problem analysis is where I noted or highlighted the questions that you need to ask yourself. Now, for your behavior analysis is the second sub-step. Is the second sub-step. And doing this behavior analysis brings to the fore categories of behavior. Number one is the ideal behavior. Number two is the current behavior. Number three is your priority behavior. Ideal behaviors, current behaviors, and priority behaviors. Ideal behavior here refers to all behaviors that are capable of ameliorating a particular aspect of the problem. The current practice or current behavior refers to the most prevalent behaviors that are related to the problem, while the priority behaviors designate feasible behaviors which are bound to have a major or significant impact on the problem. I'll give us a short anecdote on this so that you can have a deeper understanding of what we mean by the ideal behavior, the current practices, and what is known as the priority behavior. When we say the ideal behavior refers to all behaviors that are capable of ameliorating a particular aspect of the problem. An average Fulani man, if there is one thing we found out in Nigeria, that was last year when Buhari was still in power, was the issue of cattle rearing, where you find the Fulani herdsmen going around with their cows, with their cattle. They serve as the shepherd, and then they go around anywhere with it. It is their ideal behavior. And if there is one thing we're trying to solve, then is the issue of insurgents here and there. But we are beginning then we are beginning to look at it from the aspect of the Fulani herdsmen who go around, allegedly go around with a gun. Their ideal behavior is to rear cattle. That is where they find peace. So when we are now looking at the bigger problem, which has to do with the insurgent that we are trying to tackle, first we have to look at their ideal behavior first. Because it's this ideal behavior that is capable of ameliorating a particular aspect of the problem. What is the ideal behavior? You find them with their cattle anywhere they go. Now, the current practice now, or the current behavior here, which refers to the most prevalent behavior or practice that are related to the problem. What is the current practice now? What is their current behavior? Their current behavior now is that they go to people's farm, eat all of their farm produce, and at some point probably get to kill them, allegedly, in quotes. Now, I'm not saying it is a fact, because I don't have facts and figures to this. But the alleged situation here, or the alleged current behavior, is the fact that they go to people's farm, eat their produce, and they probably kill even the farmers, or injure quite a lot of them. And this is still equally related to what? Insurgents. Now, what is the priority behavior now? The priority behavior designates visible behaviors which are bound to have major or significant impact on the problem. It means the persistence of this problem. Because at some point, they will move from this behavior being their ideal behavior, they'll shift it to their current practice and marry the two to give them their priorities. They say, this is who we are and this is what we'll continue to do. And it's going to designate their visible behavior. We'll see who they are. And when they exhibit who they are to us, it is bound to have major or significant impact on the problem. So once we're able to identify all of this and we're equally able to set our priorities right as members of the public or members of even the paramilitary or the military system, then we can be able to say this is our best to tackle the problem at hand. Somebody is raising up their hand. Mr. Kenneth Jukpo. Do you have any question? All right, in the absence of none, let us continue.
Sir, please, can you help clarify the priority behavior, please?
Okay. All right. Now, like I said, the ideal behavior has to do with their regular behavior. We know who they are already. They are meant to rear their cattle. They are meant to go round the world with it. But when we talk about the priority behavior, let us move from the grammar you have that I've been speaking since as regards the designate feasible behavior. And let us look at it from the layman perspective. It refers to a specific action or a set of actions that are given a high level of importance or emphasis within a particular context, which was why I said they will move from you knowing them as people that just rear cattle, that's just what they do, to their current behavior that has to do with their atrocities. Now to priority. By priority, we mean it is at this point they come out to tell you, yes, this is who we are, and we are not going to change. Those beliefs you have about us before is not what you think we actually are. That is going to refer to their specific action or their set of action, and they will give a high level importance to it. And let us look at it last year or last 2 years. An average Fulani man feels we are the owners of Nigeria. Mr. Kenneth, do you get it better now?
Yes, sir. It's clear now. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you very much. So they will set their priorities, and when we are able to now identify this actually are, it allows us to be able to understand how best to equally tackle it from our own end. So in behavior analysis, we are concerned with certain questions as well, such as the way we are concerned with certain questions at the problem analysis. At the behavior analysis, we are equally concerned with certain questions, such as what behaviors are related to the problem are participants presently performing. What behaviors related to the problem are participants presently performing, and who are the participants? Now, let us look at it from another anecdote this time around. I'll give us an example. When I was equally having a course on DEFCON during my undergrad days, we went to a community at the University of Ilorin where we call it the Fulani settlement. Being a large class, we actually contributed money. Our goal was to, part of the things we projected was to go there, drill a borehole for them so that they can have good water to drink. That was what we projected before we go ahead to make use of the ACADA model. We got there, we did our A, which is the assessment, where we did our situation report. Part of our situation report, what we gathered were so many things, but we can't just go ahead to start doing a lot. We still need to come together, and then we decide to come together at the communication analysis. First, we identified the problems. We provided answers to the questions that I listed under problems. And then the behavior, we did our assignments and so many other things, parameters we had to look at, or the sub steps we had to look at under communication analysis. We put everything to test. And guess what happened? At the end of the day, sitting roundtable, do our roundtable discussion to provide solution to this. We're able to identify one thing. Their children will have to trek at least nothing less than 2 kilometers before they can be able to get very close to something good to drink or something good to fetch, use it to cook, close to something good. I'm using the word close to because the water is still not good enough. It is from there their cattle will still get to drink. They get to wash their clothes. It's more like a very small stream. But still, we have to take a sample of this to the lab and notice this can actually kill some of them. At the end of the day, to cut the long story short, we drilled this borehole, hoping that it will cut the distance the children will have to trek to get good water. And when we're doing our evaluation, the medium-term evaluation, which is when we get there, I will explain what is the medium-term evaluation and then the long-term evaluation. When we are doing our medium-term evaluation, that was like 3 months after, we noticed they had spoiled this borehole that we drilled for them. They stopped making use of it. And they still have to send their children to that same stream to fetch water for them. And when we inquired further, why this? You just wasted our money. They said this borehole we drilled for them is filled with evil spirits. The evil spirit is not allowing them have fun with their children. And we said why? Said because the children are now around all the time. They don't get to have enough time to sleep with their wives. So that way, they are counting the borehole as something that is hindering, changing their own behavior, killing the fun they are supposed to have with their wives. So we'll ask ourselves some questions under the behavior analysis by asking the question, what behaviors related to the problem are participants presently performing? The behavior we found them to be presently performing then that are related to the problem of bad water is the fact that they are used to it. What are the behaviors? They are used to going into that stream, trekked almost 2 miles or 2 kilometers before they could be able to get good water to drink. At the expense, at the convenience of them having fun with their wives. So which one? Another question we should ask is that which one are similar to the ideal behaviors? We need to equally ask some questions on which ones compete with the desired behaviors. What are the barriers to the desired behaviors? These are the barriers and some of the things we'll still look at. Is the absence of the desired behaviors due to a skills deficit, that is lack of skill necessary to perform the behavior, or to a performance deficit, that is existing condition and resources which do not support the learned behavior? So these questions are aimed at identifying the prime factors that are critical to the central issues of behavior change. And one critical element of communication analysis is the participants analysis. So we move from the problem analysis to the behavior analysis. The behavior analysis, where I said we have to look at it from three different angles: the ideal behavior, the current behavior, and the priority behavior. Now we'll be looking at the participation analysis, or what is known as participant analysis. The thrust of investigation at this point is the identification of analysis of stakeholders, partners, allies, and organizations that should be involved in the communication offering. Meaning, when you intend to take members of the community, you have to carry them along. You have to involve them. They have to be part of it. Who are those that will be the major stakeholders? Do they have a village head? Mr. Village Head, you have to be a major stakeholder here, because you will be the one to be part of the monetary team of this project when we are done. So you have to identify some of them. Once you identify this, the major participants, you will be able to draw, put in place so many factors in terms of your monitoring and evaluation, and bring about inclusiveness into the project you want to bring to them. So identify your stakeholders, identify your partners, you identify your allies, you identify even the organizations that are ready to partner with you, or organizations that should be involved in the communication offering. And when I say communication offering, in the project you intend to offer them. So participant analysis is carried out to identify individuals, groups, and institutions that will provide the needed support for that behavior change that you are looking forward to. So at the level, you have to look for this participant at the level of program communication, so towards social mobilization and advocacy. Another thing you have to look at in your communication analysis as part of your subset is your channels, or what is known as your media. So this is conducted to ascertain the available channels. How best can I communicate to these people? Are they still making use of their town crier? Do they have a community radio? Do they have a community TV station that they are interested in? Or do they have a specific program that they love to listen to in that community? So once you are able to identify this communication channel through which they get to communicate, or they have a baile, they have Mogaji, they have king, they have Oba, they have Obi, they have Obis, they have the Obas, they have the Emirs, and so on. You have to be able to identify all of this. Number two, you need to identify the strength, the weakness, opportunities, and threats. And that is you doing your SWOT analysis. In your channel, if I'm making use of TVC, how best can this information travel? If I would rather make use of Tungba FM in Ikorodu, and I'm targeting people on the Lagos Island, are they likely to equally receive it? You look at the strength of this channel. You look at the weakness of this channel. You look at the opportunities in this channel, and you equally look at the threats. The C there is the effectiveness, and you have to look at the effectiveness and appropriateness of the selected channels in relation to the message that you intend to pass across. So when you look at the effectiveness and appropriateness, the effectiveness has to do with the reach. The appropriateness has to do with the timing. If I intend to communicate with members of a rural community, I can't do that in the morning, because I know by that time they are likely to be on their way to their farms. But by evening, they are likely to come back home, settle back at home, and then probably listen to their radio station to run through the night, and then they go back to their daily routine the following morning. So I have to look at the effectiveness and the same time the appropriateness of the selected channel that I'm making use of in relation to the message that I intend to pass across. So, and the last one you have to look at under your channels has to do with the available resources of information for the people in a given community. What are the available information that they can benefit from? So when you identify some of this available piece of information, is it what message are we selling to them? Are they likely to key into these messages that we are selling to them to effect that behavioral change? And after conducting the necessary analysis, we are now in an informed position to set communication objective, that is, a concise statement of the desired or planned outcome upon which to base our interventions. So such communication objectives must be very smart. It must be very smart. Now we've moved from channels to communication objectives now. So after conducting all of these things we have to do under problem, behavior, participation, and channels, we need to set our communication objectives very well. And in the course of setting these communication objectives, this communication objective has to be very smart. That is, it has to be specific, it has to be measurable, it has to be appropriate, it has to be realistic, and it has to be time bound. Again, it has to be specific, it must be measurable, it must be appropriate, it must be realistic, and it has to be time bound. By specific, we mean we mean that the objectives must state in clear terms the desired outcome. At the end of the day, we want this community to stop trekking 2 kilometers to get good water, potable water. At the end of the day, that is what we are looking forward to. And at the end of the day, they should be able to have this clean water at a very close proximity, close distance. Number two, it has to be measurable. By measurable, we mean there should be criteria on how output will be measured. How are we going to measure this thing at the end of the day in terms of our output, in terms of what we have set to do? This level of inclusiveness in that project. Because if we fail to do this, they are going to rather jettison the project, or probably even rub it on your face to say, we are not interested, because you are not tapping into it. By tapping into their culture, you are bringing a project to a Yoruba dominated environment, and you want to greet their Kabiyesi, and you are greeting him while standing, or you are trying to exhibit an infographics on how to make use of that project, and you're not infusing into it their culture, you're not infusing into it what is locally acceptable to them, then they are not ready to buy it or buy into it. I want by being realistic, and that is part of the SMART under communication objectives. By being realistic means that objectives must be achievable. I can't promise them heaven and earth, and at the same time, at the end of the day, I was not able to deliver on anything. It's just like people selling artificial intelligence to us today, telling us today computer can do what a man can do, and tell you, don't worry, this thing I'm selling to you will clean your house, will take care of your baby, and at the end of the day, if it does the other way around, then it means it is not realistic. It's just like those telling us to come and do affiliate marketing. They tell us to wait and watch videos of like maybe 45 minutes. At the end of the day, they tell you to come and buy a book of 35,000. Now you still buy it, you're still not making the money you are expecting to make. It means your project is not realistic at the end of the day. So by realistic, it must be achievable. This is what I intend to do, and we are going to achieve this for this our project. And the next one is time bound. It has to be time bound. By being time bound, it means that objectives must be achieved within a specific time frame. In 3 months, this is what we want to achieve. In 6 months, we'll be through with this project. And in a year, you should start making use of so and so project. That is what we mean by time bound, and that is what you have to look out for in when doing your communication objective. So, a very crucial aspect of communication analysis is monitoring and evaluation. And how do you do your monitoring and evaluation? This is aimed at tracking performance and ascertaining the impact of a given communication program. So, the program objectives and activities, and classify such indicators into process. And what are these process? You classify your indicators into what is known as the impact and the outcome categories. The impact and outcome categories. The impact and outcome categories. And that is how you run your indicators. So when you focus on a very short-term achievement of a given program, okay, after achieving this program, we've told us, we told this community we'll be drilling a ball for them. We are done and we need to evaluate. Okay, in the course of us doing our evaluation, we want to come back in 3 months. That is a short term. And by coming back in 3 months, it means you are doing what is known as what? An impact evaluation. Impact evaluation. Impact evaluation. By giving it a short term, rather, a short term achievement of a given program, process indicators are concerned with such questions, such as we'll still come back, but let us look at indicators from 3 angles. I need to break this down so that we understand where we are and where we are going. By indicators, you have to look at it from 3 different sub steps. It equally has embedded in it the process indicator, followed by the impact indicator, and the last one is the outcome indicator. By process indicators, you'll be doing what is known as a short-term evaluation. And you have certain questions that you need to ask yourself. Under your process indicators, this is concerned with questions such as where the activities
Please, it's like the network is disturbing. We can't really hear you. At some point, it will just break up and then it will come back.
I'm having the same problem here too.
Um,
carried out as planned, where the activities carried out efficiently, where the activities carried out efficiently, where the activities carried out efficiently. You ask yourself certain questions in line with that as well. And how functional were administrative and logistic support? Was our driver available when we wanted him to available? In terms of administrative support, this is some of the so many things are embedded in administrative support. It has to do with your attendance. It has to do with the budgeting as well. It has to do with remuneration as well. It has to do with those you have to see. It has to do with record keeping. These are questions you ask yourself under your process indicators. While under impact indicators, impact indicators concentrate on the medium-term effect of a given program. Your process indicators concentrate on the short-term effect of a given program, while impact indicators concentrate on the medium-term effect of a given program, and they provide information on the extent to which a given program objective has been achieved. We want to look at the extent that the program that we've intended to do in terms of the objective we set for ourselves. Have we been able to achieve this program? We want to look at the extent to which we have been able to achieve them. And the last one here is the outcome indicators. And this dwell on the long-term effects of a given program intervention. And they provide information on the outcome of a given intervention. Same way when we get to evaluation, we'll now start looking at how we can evaluate using the impact and the outcome indicators. Now, the next one now is design. But before we move on to design, please, can anyone do a recap or give us a recap of what we've been talking about on communication analysis? Anyone at all?
Let me try, sir. Um, Under this communication analysis, we started by saying that it should be smart, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time bound. And you explained that this is where we do our monitoring and evaluation, and also emphasize that we should, at the stage of doing our communication analysis, we should take into cognizance um, the the participants, to know their, infuse their culture, infuse their traditions into our planning for communication. So we'll be looking at communication um, that they will receive and work with, and not something that will be foreign to them for communication analysis. And you also emphasized that it should be time bound. So we have a target as to how we want to achieve what we are going to do in communication analysis. But I didn't get the part where you say we'll be doing monitoring and evaluation in this communication analysis. I didn't get that part. And also, I wanted to know if during this communication analysis, we'll be having feedback, if we are going to be engaging the participants at this stage or to be later. Thank you, sir.
Please, can you guys hear him? Are you guys hearing him?
No, we can't. So is it speaking?
No, I can't hear him too.
Network has been behaving funny in the last few minutes.
Mm, I think it's network. Hey.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can. We can.
All
We can
right.
hear
So I
you.
said I don't mind if we can have a female to contribute to that as well. A female, oh, ẹ dákun.
Okay, so let me try. Good
Okay.
evening.
Good evening.
Yes, communication analysis is the second process in the ACADA model, and there are sub steps in communication analysis. The first one is the problem analysis or statements. We have the behavior, we have participation channels or media, then we have communication objectives, and we have indicators. So the first one is the statement or problem analysis. So this is, according to you, is the takeoff point, is where we seek answers to questions from situation reports. When we've done the situation reports, which is the first one of the assessments, here we seek answers to questions like what are people doing, or what are they doing or not doing that constitutes the problem? Where and when does such action or inaction takes place? What does such action or inaction, who does such action or inaction affect? What are the effects of the problem and possible causes of the problem? This is the first one under communication analysis. Then we have the second one is behavior. Yes. The second one is the behavior analysis. You said we have the ideal behavior, we have the current behavior, and we have the priority behavior. The ideal behavior is normally what they are doing. You gave instance of a Fulani herdsman. The ideal behavior is the rearing of cattle, and then their current behavior, no, the ideal behavior is, they are cattle rearers. So normally it's normal for them to rear cattle. Then their current behavior is them allegedly encroaching into farms, destroying crops, and in worst case scenarios, they harm the farmers. Then the priority behavior you said is the action giving high level of emphasis in the particular contents. That is placing emphasis on a particular part of the situation. Then the third one is participation. I didn't really get the participation. Okay, participant analysis. It is the identification of stakeholders, participants, partners, allies, and organizations involved in a communication offering. Here, you have to analyze people that are going to participate in the communication you're trying to offer. If it's the partners, the organizations involved, the stakeholders, etc. Then the next one is the channel or media. The channel is the preferred medium of communication, how you're going to pass this message, how you're going to analyze this problem using the media. And then it could be radio, it could be TV, it could be the opinion leaders like their ballers, their for the Yorubas, their emirs for the Hausas, their Ezes for the Igbos, etc., etc. And then the channels, we must also have the SWOT analysis here. We have to measure the strengths of the channel, the weaknesses of the channels, their opportunities, and their threats. Then the communication objective is another one after the channels. Here we have to ensure that the communication objective is SMART. That is, it is specific, it has to be easily identifiable, it is measurable. That means you have to measure the objectives. You have to know where it stands at a particular point in time. You have to check if it's appropriate, you have to check if it's realistic, and then you have to check if it's time bound. Appropriate is based on if it's going to suit the situation on ground. Realistic, if it's something you can achieve. You don't overpromise in this place. It's not good for you to overpromise. You would rather underpromise and then you overdeliver. And then we have the time bound. It has to, for every project, it certainly must be time bound. You have to time the project. And then we have the indicator. You said the indicators are concerned with the process indicators, the impact indicators, the outcome indicators. I'll just stop here, sir, and that's it.
All right, thank you very much for that contribution. Now, please, I want us all to understand something. The communication analysis has to do within the group, not that you've started executing your program, your intended NGO, your intended program you have, intervention program that you have for people. It is just within. You need to analyze, you need to internalize. These are the things you've been able to gather, and then you ask yourself certain questions. Have we been able to achieve these milestones? And we talked about indicators. That's why I said you start asking yourself certain questions at the process indicator, the impact, and then the outcome. Now, Mr. Kenneth, you asked the question in respect of feedback. Please, can you run that by me again, sir? Hello, Mr. Kenneth. Okay. Okay, I'm going to take me. All right.
To the man's farm. But they send their documents or in building.
So tell him it's with Mrs. Mo. So you should be able to get it. Now we're moving on to design. Having analyzed the situation on ground, please, I hope everyone can hear me, please.
Yes, we can.
All right. So having analyzed the situation on the ground and the communication components in it. Sorry, please give me like a minute, please. Sorry for that short break, everyone. So having analyzed the situation on the ground components, what is expected of us to do is that in a position to design an effective message. Please don't forget, at the assessment stage, your communication analysis is where you have to come together everything you've gathered from the field using those subsets that I make use of. In terms of the behavior, what is their, in terms of the problem, you ask yourself certain questions. In terms of their behavior, their ideal, their current, their priority behavior, and the participation, who are those that are going to be the major stakeholders here? These are the things you do in-house. What channels are we going to make use of? Have there been other channels that have made use of before that you can improve on? You look at the appropriateness you will now recommend this time around. Then your communication objectives as well, and then you do your own evaluation. Insofar it is in-house, then you have to limit it to just only 3. Outcome evaluation. And the next one we'll be looking at now is your design. Everything you've now discussed as your communication analysis, you need to bring them to life. You need to start designing it. You design everything. You design them all. So, and which also I said, we are now in a position to design an effective message that will compel desired action. It is not easy to sell a pen to an individual who doesn't need one. But if you design it in such a find need for it, even though they don't need it, they do not need it, then they will buy it, which is why I respect the Igbos. An average Igbo trader could sell even could even sell crutches to you or wheelchair to you, knowing fully well you are complete, because they will make you find in it. They will look for a compelling message to appeal to your senses. I see, Oga, I know you might not need this wheelchair now, but before, how old do you be? I'll be 70. Before you know it, in 5 years' time, you will need this wheelchair. And for an NGO to be able to do this, it all starts with what is known as message development. And this message development involves, number one, the determination of the message concept that will give rise to desired behavior. You have to conceptualize these messages. Our best, because in order for you to be able to conceptualize this, you need to equally look for the best channels to attend to put this message through that channel. Then they will know it seems we are the audience of this content. If you misroute, is the end with the message itself. So the determination of message concept will give rise to the desired behavior. Number two, the choice of communication approach is equally very important. What approach am I making use of? Am I using song? Am I using music? Am I using celebrity endorsement approach? Am I using many other approaches that are available under advertising that you might actually bring forth? And the last one is the selection of message appeal or tone. Message appeal or tone. Are you making use of the fear appeal? Are you making use of the positive appeal? Are you making use of the direct or even the indirect appeal? Are you making use of the rational appeal or the emotional appeal? When we make use of this, I think polio eradication and routine EPI can actually come to play here. So messages must be addressed in unambiguous terms. Behaviors to promote and highlight the benefits of the behaviors being promoted. So when you're bringing your messages together, it must be in unambiguous terms. Make sure you're not blowing every grammar. The behavior that you intend to promote, that this is the way we want you to start living your life, will be well channeled to them, will be well understood by those you are sending that message to. And the behavior that you intend for them to exhibit at the end of that program, they will exhibit such behavior. And those messages must equally highlight the benefits of the behavior you are trying to promote. If I'm telling you to stop drinking bad water, I need to promote the content of my message in such a way that I will have to it that will make you see the negative aspect of the of the thing you are doing and equally make you see the positive aspect of it. That's one thing our alcoholic drinks have failed to do. They only show you that it is good when you drink alcohol, it's for your merriment, it's to celebrate, and all. They won't show you the side effect of those that are getting an intervention program that could actually stop people from drinking alcohol, and we're only showing them the negative aspect of it. You equally need to show them the positive aspect of it. I think India, majority of Bollywood movies are beginning to do that. They show you the negative aspect of smoking and the positive aspect of smoking. It is equally an intervention. So in selecting a communication approach, emphasis must be laid on the informative, educative, persuasive plans to encourage compliance, because people are very, very stubborn. So, and the choice of a specific message, appeal, or tone, which might be positive or negative, rational or emotional, serious or humorous, must be being promoted. In Nigeria, for instance, the best way to appeal to us to do some things is probably through all of these our short skits, because that is where majority of us find our peace. That's where we find our happiness. So it can be designed, not that it has to be. It can be designed in that line, because they have their own audiences, their own audience as well. So the design component brings to the fore the issue of message dissemination and training plans. How best can we disseminate this message? And you have to design it by bringing so many strategies into play. Because at this design stage, you have to strategize. You have to integrate communication strategy plan matrix, which aims to accurately applying specific messages and intelligence at advocacy. There's a big difference between you just planning. It is at this point that you get to note that you just don't delegate and then abdicate. You just don't plan and then leave it. You have to plan and follow up. And how do you follow up when you are designing your message? There has to be some level of advocacy. In short, a high level of advocacy, a high level of social mobilization, and a high level of program communication dimension that will help you to promote and sustain the desired behavior that your NGO or your program intervention intends to achieve. So it is vital to stress at this junction that in message design, emphasis should be on the effectiveness of the message. The effectiveness of the message has to do with the content of the message, so that what is said is what is meant, and what is meant is what is understood, and what is understood is what is done, and what is done is the desired action. I said it is at this junction that we should now stress that in message design, when we are designing our message, emphasis should be on the effectiveness of the message format itself. And speaking of the message format, it has to do with the content, so that what is said is what is meant, and what is meant is what is understood. What is understood is what is done, and what is done is the desired action. I hope we get it at the design stage now. Please, can anyone run that by us again so that we all are in the same page, on the same page rather? Is anyone know? I'm turning.
Okay, so I'll just take the last part you explained. You
Okay.
said at this point the content of the message is very important, such that what is said is what is meant, and it's also and what is meant is what is understood, and what is understood is what is done, and this should bring the desired action.
All right. Thank you very much,
That's
Mr.
about
Kenneth.
this the essence of the content, the message.
All right.
But under the design, you also explained that everything discussed in the previous stage, the communication, everything discussed in the previous stage for communication analysis is captured in the design, and such that the design produces a compelling message that will get the desired, that will get people to take the desired action. And you also said the choice of communication approach is very important. And then the selection of the message appeal and tone is also very important.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Do we have any other person who would like to contribute? Is there any one more person, a female, please? Hey. Hello, anyone? Just a female, please. Oh, just one. I start mentioning names.
Okay, sir, you said the design. After analyzing the situation and then the communication components, for the design, we consider the message development. Basically, is to check the best way to pass the message to give rise to the intended behavior. So things we have to consider, first of all, is the message development. Secondly, is the choice of communication approach. Third is the selection of message appeal or tone. Then the message must as well be unambiguous. That is, it should be very clear and must highlight the benefits of the message you're trying to promote. It's not just passing the message. You have to highlight what the recipients would receive after getting exposed to the message. Example you gave was beer. These drink companies, they just show you when you're using beer to celebrate and enjoy, but they never tell you other components of the drink that uh like the other side of the drink. But the joyous part is the benefit, yes. So we have to always highlight that. I will stop there. Ken already said the other part you talked about.
All right, thank you very much. So move on from there. We've taken A, which stands for assessment, where we have a situation report. We've looked at communication analysis. There are sub-steps underneath: the problem, behavior, participation, channels of media, communication objectives, and indicators. And we've only looked at design. The next one we'll be looking at now is what is known as action. Action. So after designing the message, the next stage that incidentally represents the last letter in the ACADA model is action. And this is where we do our implementation plan. Here, communication plan is developed in line with communication objectives. And the communication plan is where our communication plan, the action, which is the implementation plan rather, it is where our communication plan is developed in line with communication objectives. Our communication plan is developed in line with communication objectives. Communication plan here gives direction on how to implement communication activities, taking cognizance of our target audience. And who are these our target audience? They are the beneficiaries or they are the participants of that intervention. Communication plan here gives direction on how to implement communication activities. It tells us how. Where should we start from? What should we follow? Who are those we are to engage? Taking cognizance of planning. Following all of these are direction, we have to put at the back of our mind those that will benefit from this intervention. So for an effective implementation of a given communication plan, it is important that we develop an integrated communication strategy that would address the relevant approaches, the relevant direction, or the relevant approaches in our communication continuum at the levels of advocacy, at the level of social mobilization, and at the level of program communication. I'll take that again. for an effective implementation of a given communication plan. For your communication plan to be very effective, for you to implement your communication plan very well, it is imperative that you develop an integrated communication strategy. There should be an integrated communication strategy somewhere that can help you to address the relevant approaches, the ways in your communication continuum. We are using the word continuum because it has its own sub steps as well, and it doesn't end. There's an evaluation that is done, and your ACADA model looks like a circle. It doesn't end. It is an endless circle, which is why I'm using the word continuum. At the level of your advocacy, that is where you publicize what you intend to do. At the level of social mobilization, that is where you bring people together to include even the stakeholders. And the program communication itself, this is what we intend to do for you. So our task here in this regard is made easier when we follow it step by step. And what are this integrated communication strategy continuum? And what are this matrix? The matrix is very, very, I don't want to take us through a very long process. The matrix, in terms of advocacy, in terms of social mobilization, in terms of program communication, includes number one, your problem behavior, the behavior to promote. You have to identify your target audience. I will share this material with you at the end of the class so that you can see this communication integrated communication strategy. It is more like a planning matrix that you will need, and you have to tick the box every step of the way. In terms of advocacy, were we able to advocate the problems, the problem behavior itself? Were we able to advocate? Were we able to equally bring people together, mobilize them together to say this is what we intend to promote, and what is the program communication? You have to in your advocacy as well, you have to consider your target audience. Same thing for your social mobilization, same thing for your program communication. Your communication objectives, your strategies, your activities, your monitoring and evaluation indicators must come to play, your message areas as well, your communication approach, your message appeal, your message tone, your channels of communication, and communication materials. So following this matrix or following the matrix makes it become more easier for you to develop your specific communication activities that will address given communication problems in a scientific manner. The ACADA model of communication is better understood and utilized when it is viewed as a cyclical strategy commencing from an assessment of the situation to communication analysis to design to action and then back to assessment for communication program improvement, modification in order to achieve set objectives. And as you go on, you still have to do what is known as an evaluation of all of this, and that is where your indicators come to play, and that is what makes it cyclical. Because even after doing your evaluation, you still have to go and reassess again, so that when and your reassessment will be done if you are taking the same intervention to another place again. So critical to the success of ACADA model are two innovative management principles. Number one is a total quality management. I don't want to drag us into this, and what is known as a continuous quality improvement. These two principles underscores the fact that modern communication management processes must focus on integrating the idea or the philosophy of the participant-driven benefit, that is, those that will benefit from the intervention, and a continuous improvement of product, quality, and service delivery. So these principles issue from the fact that communication for development seeks not only to transfer messages, but also to promote interaction around the messages so that participants would practice the desired behavior. Not that after you are done with your intervention, they will leave. It has to be done in such a way that at the end of the day, they even see it as it is our own. It is not something that they bring to us to be making use of. Which was why I was saying earlier on that it has to be your ACADA model when you are deploying it or making use of it. It needs to be all encompassing. It needs to have at least 90% of inclusiveness Let the people see it as it is our own. And we have so many theories that can be used under ACADA model to ensure people see it as their own. And by you can use the hypodermic needle theory, and in your message tone, you can use it to induce fear in them. That is the only time people get to say, yes, this project is our own. COVID-19 taught us a big lesson in that aspect. Majority of us never valued all this media advocacy on COVID-19 is going to heal, is going to do this or that. But the moment the advocacy became negative, we became a fan of it immediately. Majority of us bought quite a lot of nose mask. You can't enter the bank without it, can't go to classes without it, and so on. So we need this ACADA model. Like I said, your A stands for your assessment, C for your communication analysis. The other A stands for your action, which is your implementation plan. And your D has to do with, the A there is your assessment. The C is your communication analysis. The D, design, and another A there is your action. And then we have what is known as your evaluation. And when doing all of this, you have to take certain things into consideration. When you're designing your message, you decide whether or not you'll be making use of an emotional appeal or a rational appeal. An example of emotional appeal is when you're doing an intervention in a particular environment where when you notice that the mortality rate is very high, you can make use of an emotional appeal so that people can buy into the intervention you're trying to bring in. If part of the things you've assessed in your assessment, that is your situation report, is the fact that the only thing they make use of in this environment is their local apps for when their mothers are pregnant, they only make use of their local apps, and you've conducted quite a lot of research on those apps, and you notice that is what is affecting them, and that is what is increasing the mortality rate over there. Then you can make use of emotional appeal that can dissuade their mindset, their behavior, their attitude away from making use of that local apps into those that will start patronizing hospitals. To say, we've come for our medical checkup today, we've come to our antenatal, and so on. When you're making use of rational is what we often make use of in Lagos, particularly the Yorubas. They will tell you don't stay with the doctors alone, but rather make use of your regular alagbos that are around. That is you taking a rational decision. So while some people will call make use of go into some intervention by making use of some humorous or serious appeal or humorous or serious approach, so as to ensure that people do what they are expected to do. And in the course of doing your action, you have to do what is known as test, pre-test, and revise. Before you start your advocacy or your program, you have to test it. Select at least maybe 30 out of that community, test it, put those programs to test, and watch out for their behavior. It can take you quite a lot of time. Don't forget, you should have your time frame as well. It must be time bound. So, okay, we'll be doing our pre-testing for just only a month to see how effective this is going to be. If you've identified a rural community where they have a teenage pregnancy, who are those you have to ask to channel your energy towards? You channel your energy towards the young adults who are the teenagers, and equally not only the female but rather the males as well, by telling them, please make use of protection all the time. You can pre-test this. If it works, then you have to go. If it doesn't work, then you have to revise. Is it the strategy that is wrong? Is it the communication? Is it the way we ask them to make use of it that is wrong? These are some of the questions you get to ask yourself. So that is where I'll be stopping for your ACADA model. So I got the question from Miss Nancy in respect of Andrew Moemeka, and I've looked at the topic on development, social change, and development communication. I ought to have gotten this material maybe an hour or 30 minutes before the class, so that I can be able to treat it very well. So I don't know if we all can still converge online in like maybe 30 minutes to look at it together. I'm only seeking for your permission, please.
Okay, sir, it's okay. So far, we're going to look at it. We are good.
All right, thank you very much. Just give me
That's
like 30 to 45 minutes because I still need to observe Salat. So I'll come
Okay,
back
let's say by 7:30, sir.
7:30. All right.
Yes, sir, because it's almost 10 minutes to 7. So by
7.
7:30.
All right. Thank you very much.
It's all right. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.